You are now listening to The Mind of Tommy Bunnz, and this is Black Friday.
Black Friday.
Black Friday.
It is Black Friday.
Peace, family. I'm your host, Tommy Bunnz, and welcome to the episode 4 of Black Friday, the podcast. Give yourself a big hand. Word. Now, excuse me if I sound a little congested. I got two beautiful black babies at the house, man, and they both got little runny noses. I've learned that after becoming a father that from October to around January, February, expect to have some kind of runny nose if you don't have the illest immune system on the planet. So, we try to do the ginger teas and the orange juice and the citrus and make sure that our vitamin C levels is skyrocketing. But sometimes, man, these little 2015, 2016 future bugs, man, they be breaking through all that shit. So, we have these occasional stuffy noses, man. So excuse me if my nose is a little stuffed up, but we still gonna get through this thing, man. 2015 is here, man. Well, 2016 is gone. 2016 is here now. I want to do this episode, in a recap form. I want to talk about the things that's happened this year. Starting off this year in January, we had Selma pop off, and Selma was the big media darling to start the year off. Depicting a more fictionalized characterization of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. than the iconic romanticized one of legend who wasn't having an affair on his wife, took Hollywood by storm. It made about $32 million on a $20 million budget, a small feat for a smaller budget film, but nonetheless it was nominated for Best Picture and Best Original Song, which Common and John Legend both won for. Selma had everybody talking, man. Everybody was, Oprah went on this big kind of like campaign to make sure that every school in America had a copy of this film. Obviously, she was a producer on the film, so that meant a lot for her. And it also could probably explain why the film did so well with the Oscars, because of how, favored Oprah is. Not necessarily because the film was that great. I found it strange that Selma was nominated for the highest award of the evening, Best Picture, yet it wasn't recognized for categories that make films great, like cinematography, directing, editing, screenplay, and acting. None of the actors were nominated for any awards. The cinematography was beautiful. I think his name is Stephen Bradford. The cinematographer, I might be wrong. I think Ava DuVernay did a relatively good job directing. I'm not going to say that she was the best director of the night, because there were some other films like Boyhood that I thought that Richard Linklater deserved to get the Oscar for Boyhood, because come on, man, you talking about directing a film for 12 years, and keeping the characters consistent to who they are and allowing them to grow, and then allowing that character, the new development of this character, to kind of take the direction of the narrative. Like, I thought it was interesting to try to direct an entire family of actors for 12 years and still tell a cohesive narrative. That's, to me, a phenomenal job. But I think the Best Director Oscar went to Alejandro G. Iñárritu, who I'm going to be talking about a little bit later, for his film The Revenant. Selma, did his thing. I also had some gripes about the film because I thought it was cool. I didn't think it was all that. I didn't think it was necessary to tell a story that stripped Martin Luther King Jr. of his legendary iconic status. Like, I didn't think it was necessary to tell that story and like strip him down to being this just mere mortal, even though I know that the man was a man. He was a human. He was complex. He was flawed in his ways, that we all are. But I think that sometimes it's okay to allow us to have legends. I think that it's okay for us to have people in our memories and in our folklore and in our history that rise above the mere status of being just a mortal man. I think that it's important to have legends. And I was just watching, my uncle just tagged me in this video where KRS-One is talking about how our African brothers and sisters, our ancestors, created God. And created God for the purpose of having something to aspire to. And so once you reach that particular level where you surpass the normalcy of modern man, and you become something more than that, you become legendary. I think that it's important to the culture to keep and preserve those ideals no matter what. And I know when doing that, it creates almost this religious dogma. But I think it's important, to have myth, you know what I'm saying? Because if you look at, Europeans, they consistently celebrate the mythological characters of Egypt. The mythological characters of ancient Greece. And they make these dudes gods, and they make storylines around these characters. And they don't necessarily try to explore them for the humanity or the humanitarian aspects that exist inside of them. They allow them to be these mythological, above human, characteristics, even though they're based upon people who actually existed. So I felt like that was, something that I wasn't really feeling. And plus, if you want to strip somebody down, don't strip MLK down. Strip TD Jakes down. Strip George Bush down. Ronald Reagan, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. Strip one of them dudes down. But we talking about the poster child of the civil rights movement, man. A movement that, he himself began to question toward the end of his life. I thought that was whack. And I find it interesting also that Ava DuVernay is also now balling out of this world when it comes to, her popularity amongst the Hollywood elite. Now she's got custom Barbies to even being hand selected to possibly direct a new Star Wars. Why her? I don't know, what I'm saying? Who knows? I'm not going to say that it's a conspiracy, but I definitely think that it's interesting that here you have a black director, kind of like make a mere mortal man out of Martin Luther King, who kind of looked confused at times, not necessarily sure where to go. He did lead by faith and, lead by example in the film, but he definitely was weaker than, my image of Martin Luther King. And I like my image of Martin Luther King a lot better than I liked the film. I also found it was weird that she went on after that. She said that if you want to, be successful in Hollywood, you got to follow the footsteps of white men. I can't stand when motherfuckers say shit like that because, it's nothing but white men who run Hollywood now. But Hollywood isn't Hollywood anymore. The internet, Netflix has allowed for, and just the convenience and ease of building your own website has allowed for now filmmakers to be able to create their own system. To where now, e-commerce has gotten so much easier. PayPal. Now you can start to charge your own, admissions for people to watch your movies online. Shit, porn stars is doing it. You niggas will sit and pay to watch a chick finger herself for an hour. They'll pay $15 for that. Come on, who wouldn't pay $15 to see your dope movie? And it doesn't even have to be $15. It could be $5. $2, I'm a big fan of the $1, $2, viewing experience, man. Come on. Hollywood has changed. We don't always have to be in 2,000 to 3,000 theaters. And most black films anyway aren't even getting 1,000 theaters. They're getting limited releases. You're lucky when you get 2,300 theaters. That's some shit that, the normal white romantic comedy gets. Most black films don't get that even that wide of a audience when it comes to our releases. So I'm not into the idea of following the footsteps of white men. I do think that it's important to observe and study the industry, but you can study the industry by studying which are the most popular films. And we know that family films are usually the most popular because now that allows the entire family to go out, and that means that's 4 to 5, 3 to 5, 6, or however large your family is. That's the amount of ticket sales, and feel good movies. Like look at Star Wars. Star Wars is the biggest movie in the history of cinema now. Goldman Sachs said it's gonna make about $14 billion by the time it's done. It's already at I think $1 billion now. worldwide. So yeah, that was that was whack what she said, that shit. It also reminded me of when, I watched Concussion, this year with Will Smith. He said the exact same thing in a sense. And I'm not sure if in real life Dr. Omalu, Bennett Omalu, who the film is based around, if he ever uttered those words. But in the film, Smith says,
"You are in America now, so you have to be the best version of yourself. If you don't know what that is, you pick something and fake it."
What did you pick?
What did I pick?
To fake.
I picked an older, bald-headed white man.
Why an older, bald-headed white man?
Because he is the best at what he does.
Maybe I'm not that smart. I didn't get invited to Mensa, so I'm not a genius. Maybe he really meant that, old white men are the best liars and fakers in the world. Maybe that's what he meant. But, it didn't come across as that, so I didn't take it like that. So for Duvernay to say that, I'm also like, yo, this is whack. Almost a week into the new year, Paris experienced its deadliest attacks in years when Islamic extremists ran into a company named Charlie Hebdo, that's known for making anti-Islamic political cartoons and also just political satire cartoons. They made a really fucked up political cartoon of one of their prime ministers, a black woman, and they made her into this monkey, and they said that it wasn't racist, but you constantly see, these political cartoon drawers, these white political cartoonists consistently draw black political figures as monkeys. I don't know if, every white person thinks black people look like monkeys, but that's definitely been consistently synonymous with racism, and when you depict black people as monkeys. So I say that to say, like, they're not just anti-Islamic, they're anti-everybody in a sense, but that still doesn't excuse, the fact that these men went in there and murdered 17 people in the attack, 11 on the first day and 6 on the next. And it created an atmosphere of more anti-Islamic rhetoric, and the question of freedom of the press and the press's ability to offend anyone and still be protected under the rights of free press was raised. And there were arguments for weeks after these attacks where, folks were standing behind Charlie Hebdo and their right to say whatever they wanted to say. And, it just got real ugly, man. People started condemning Islam and talking about how Islam is, promoting this type of behavior when, it's not. This is not Islam, Pew Research did a study, and they showed that overwhelmingly more Islamic people oppose the type of terrorist acts that are happening in the world than are in support of it. There are people who are Islamic who do support this type of shit. But according to the research, in predominantly Islamic countries, most of the Islamic Muslims do not support that type of shit. So you can't say that Islam is responsible for this type of behavior. This is the type of shit that people do. People do this type of shit. And so it just created this type of atmosphere. For me, I felt like, don't go with a bat into the woods and then start swatting at a beehive, right? And then when the bees attack you, you want to blame the bees and say that, oh, the bees are wrong because they did this. Well, why the fuck are you fucking with them? If you know that these people don't play when it comes to how you portray their prophet, Muhammad. They don't draw no pictures. There are no images of them. Don't do that shit. It's considered blasphemy. Why would you poke the bear? The dude, the editor, rest in peace, who was murdered, he had armed security because he was receiving death threats from this shit. I don't ever want to do my job and have to have a big 6'4" nigga walking around with me with a gun and shit because I'm afraid that what I'm doing is going to upset somebody so bad that they're going to want to take my life for it. It ain't that serious, man. I pray that, moving into 2016, man, motherfuckers can stop fucking with these dudes, man. And I'm not saying that that's cowering in fear, but at least don't add fuel to the fire. We also saw, man, this big, it's been going on since forever, but this year, man, has been one of the largest and most deadliest years when it comes to police brutality, man. We saw the death of Freddie Gray. We saw the death of Walter Scott. We saw the death of Laquan McDonald. And most of these deaths we saw, like when I say we saw them, there's video. We saw the shit. Like, we're witnessing black murder at the mainstream level, right? Consistently, day after day, week after week. And so this year we've seen more police brutality incidents than I've ever seen in my life. According to killedbypolice.net, there have been 1,192 people killed by police this year compared to 1,108 in 2014 and 769 in 2013. These incidents are responsible for the creation of the Black Lives Matter movement back in 2013, the largest and more publicly visible black social movement since the Civil Rights Movement, and has brought the conversation of race in America to mainstream media, who has been doing a hell of a job making money off the images of black and brown deaths. Riots broke out in Baltimore, protests shut down freeways, holiday shopping, and yet we still can't seem to stop these things from happening, nor get bills passed. But at least somebody's doing something, right? In McKinney, Texas, police officers manhandled a young black girl as she and her friends left a pool party that had the world in a frenzy, at least the black community in a frenzy, further trying to examine police brutality in America and the issue of race. And so for me, before I go any further, I titled this, the resurgence of race, the resurgence of the race conversation. And I think that that's really what 2015 brought out of this country more so than anything, was just this idea of race. And I'm not even talking about just whites versus blacks. When we look at the Syrian refugee crisis that's been happening over these last few years, Syrian refugees fleeing from Syria experience harsh racism and discrimination from nations around the world as well. I wrote a piece called All Refugees Matter that you can check out on TommyBunnz.com, where the idea was, after watching a great video that broke down the Syrian refugee crisis in numbers, I had this idea that if the Black Lives Matter movement started an All Refugees Matter campaign against the folks who were calling the Syrian crisis the worst humanitarian disaster of all time, it could end the All Lives Matter counter narrative to the Black Lives Matter movement. We had the issue of Rachel Dolezal. Remember her? The white woman who self-identified as a black woman and held a position of relative power at the Spokane chapter of the NAACP. She was outed by her family, her mom and dad, for being a white woman. And it created this huge conversation on the idea of race and identity in America. And it really had me pissed. And I wish I was doing the podcast at that time because, I had a lot of things to say about that. And, which I still do. But it just really created this environment where, what it meant to be black. And black folks were really kind of like losing the argument because of the fact that they were discriminating against a woman who self-identified as being black. And I just felt like it was really, really backwards because of the way we tried to define blackness. You know what I mean? Like, define what it means to be black in America. I'm not saying that she was black, but she said that she identified with the blackness that existed in her genetics. And now I can't be mad at that. Like, I think people should be able to identify with whatever they want, especially if we're calling ourselves liberal and progressive and allowing a man who identifies with the feminine characteristics of himself, allowing him to identify as a woman. What gives us the right to say, no, she can't identify with the percentage of blackness that she has in her? So I felt like, that was corny as fuck. Like, I felt like we should have definitely allowed her to identify as much as she wanted to with black folks. I mean, we need all of the help we can get at this point, man. If white folks want to help black people overcome black problems, man, I'm with it. I don't care if you call yourself black, white, brown, yellow, or nothing. You helping my people, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we all going out of this thing in a flash of light. So we all light at the end of the day. We all spectrums of the color. We all rainbow people, man. So yeah, that was Rachel Dolezal, man. Moving on, we had the South Carolina 9. Rest in peace to the South Carolina 9. A white supremacist by the name of Dylan Roof, fucking bitch ass, faggot ass, punk ass motherfucker, went into the iconic and sacred Emmanuel AME Church and opened fire, killing 9 people after praying with them, which led to a media blitz both condemning and defending white privilege and white supremacy. And that incident was one of the 355 mass shootings to take place in the country this year. I'm not going to go through all of them because we've been talking about them for the last few weeks, and it's just really, I can't stand that shit. But rest in peace to the South Carolina 9. Cynthia Marie Graham Hurd, who was 54. She was a Bible study member and manager for the Charleston County Public Library System. Susie Jackson, she was 87. Rest in peace. A Bible study and church choir member. Ethel Lee Lance, she was 70 years old. She was the church's sexton. D. Payne Middleton Doctor was 49, a pastor who was also employed as a school administrator and admissions coordinator at Southern Wesleyan University. Clementa C. Pickney, the church's pastor and a South Carolina state senator. Tywanza Sanders, a Bible study member, grandnephew of Susie Jackson. Daniel Simmons, who was 74, a pastor who also served at Greater Zion AME Church. Sharonda Coleman Singleton, 45 years old, a pastor, also a speech therapist and a track coach at Goose Creek High School. And Myra Thompson, 59 years old, a Bible study teacher. Rest in peace to the South Carolina 9 and to y'all's families and to all of those people who was affected at that particular time. Man, my prayers go out to y'all, and God bless. Some good did come out of this year, too. It wasn't all race, although it felt like it. The Supreme Court voted to allow gay couples the right to marry, which sent Facebook into a frenzy. Everybody in the world had their little rainbow avatars and shit. It was a big deal. But the gays stay winning low-key. You know, you say anything bad about a gay person today, it's like saying something bad about a Jew. They will make sure your ass don't get no money. So peace to all the gay people, man. I'm with y'all, man. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. This was also officially the year of gay power, man. It came into full effect, my dude. You know, you seen a lot of gay shit out here in this world, man. Gay rappers then came out. Gay football players, Michael Sam. It's just, man, you know, gay folks have really come together. Men, women, the ones who are both men and women, or identify as women but are men, and identify as men but are women, all of them, they've really utilized their political power, and I think that it's something to be learned from when it comes to what power really is in this country, and that's the ability to take away others' opportunities, and that's what we saw with white power during the slave era and during the Jim Crow South. It was, the power is directed in the ability to prevent you from doing the things that you want to do, right? Even though it's well within your rights to do so, people can marginalize you and limit your opportunities and your access to resources simply because of the fact that you do not fit into the mold that they have designed for you based off of how they've defined reality for themselves and where you fit into that reality themselves, you know, yourself. And so, you know, it reminds me of just, you know, listening to the Black Panthers talk about how power is the ability to define phenomena and make it act in a desired manner. You know what I'm saying? And so if you think about what I'm saying, it's not no like this or nothing. It's real. The gay community has really been able to define what they want for their reality, which means that they don't necessarily have to identify to the gender and the sexual definitions that have been defined by heterosexual men and women over the years. They've now created their own kind of system of definition and how they define themselves, and used their economic status in the world to create relationships with each other and to create opportunities for other people who are gay. The same thing that I think is happening with the Latinos around the country, who are pooling together, using their resources, employing each other, voting in droves, and unionizing and coming together collectively to say, yo, we're not going to accept this, we're not going to accept this, this is what we want. And you're going to cater to what it is that we want if you want our vote. And, you know, it's something that we black folks do as well, but I don't, you know, our power is so diverted, you know, and divested, you know, it's invested in so many different sectors of policy and politics and economics in this country. Just it's so many issues. We fighting so many different things, you know. We fighting diet related diseases, we fighting police brutality, we're fighting a judicial system, we're fighting the federal system, we're fighting the prison system, we're fighting our education system, we fighting ourselves because, you know, black men and black women, we haven't seen eye to eye, like we haven't celebrated and really shown a strong love and affection and respect for black women in years. Black women have kind of like become apathetic to the situation when it comes to how black men are being treated. Not all, but a lot, especially what we see on TV. The relationships of black men and women that we do see on TV that become the most popular representation of black love and the black love experience is definitely one that's jaded and shows that it's based around drama and dysfunction. And so, you know, like I said, our power is divested in so many different things. Big up to the sorority sisters who said, you know what, we're going to use our power to make sure that our image of who the black Greeks are for us and how we're represented is not going to be misrepresented. I definitely wanted to salute them for getting that show pulled. And so, yeah, like I said, man, our black power is kind of like divested in so many different things that it's hard to really make any real progress because you have so many people fighting so many different issues. But there were tons of new black lawyers and black doctors and school teachers, investment bankers who were welcomed into their respective fields after graduating college. Hip-hop crowned this new queen of late-night ratchet TV, Miss Cardi B. She's everywhere, former stripper, fake titties, fake ass, strong, you know, Spanish East Coast accent, you know what I'm saying? She making her rounds everywhere. Everybody's loving her. I don't know what the whole thing is about this shit, but I mean, you know, I guess that's good, right? You know, we got a new queen of ratchet TV, right? Our pastors are still silent. The most popular black musicians speak with apathy and indifference on issues, minus a small handful. Wes Craven died. Roddy Piper, Bobby Christina, rest in peace. Percy Sledge, rest in peace. Brother Stuart Scott, rest in peace. Taylor Negron, man, damn. If y'all don't know who Taylor Negron is, man, y'all must not have watched Angels in the Outfield, man. That was my dude. And Leonard Nimoy, man. I want to big up Leonard Nimoy because my dad was a huge Trekkie, and that was the brother who played Spock on the TV show Star Trek. So that's my 2015 recap. Yeah, moving on. So, this week I saw The Hateful Eight. Hands down, it's the best movie of the year. Quentin Tarantino does it again. This is his 8th film. It's dope, man. It's about two bounty hunters that cross paths on their way to Minnie's haberdashery before they take them in town to Red Rock to hang these bounties that they got. Well, Samuel L. Jackson's character's name is Major Marcus Warren, and Kurt Russell's character is John Ruth, the Hangman.
But when John Ruth, the Hangman, catches you don't dive no bullet in the back. When the Hangman catches you, you hang.
That's my shit. This movie is so dope, man. It, not only because of the fact that that fate brings all of these individuals to the same space, but also just the idea that the film takes place at the end of the Civil War, and for obvious reasons, tensions are still high between blacks and whites, and even more so northern and southern soldiers. So the exchange amongst the individuals are ripe with animosity and spite and hatred and just vitriol, and it's just dope. It makes for just these rich conversations. However, this isn't necessarily a war film. It's a film of deception and mystery. Not everybody is exactly who they say they are, and as time progresses, like petals on a flower, the story blossoms and layers are peeled back, granting the audience exciting plot twists that keep us glued to the screen. You know, like I said, Sam Jackson plays an awesome bounty hunter by the name of Major Marcus Warren, who doesn't take shit from nobody, no matter who they are, and he's made a name for himself of legend because of the fact that he carries around a handwritten letter from his pen pal and friend, President Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, that's right. A brother is friends with President Abraham Lincoln, son. How about that? Kurt Russell plays John Roof the Hangman, another bounty hunter who stumbles across Major Warren headed towards Minnie's haberdashery before a blizzard sweeps over the land. It's really the best movie of the year. I think Quentin Tarantino is brave in that because of the fact that he don't hold no punches. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to, you know, talking about the issue of the Civil War, you know, there's a very, very poignant conversation that Major Marcus Warren has with Chris Mannix, whose father was a rebel soldier for the Southern Dixiecrats and the Confederates, you know, and he talks about how Samuel L. Jackson burnt down 47 men. He burnt down this high school where 47 rookie soldiers were camping out. And he said, man, and Samuel L. Jackson didn't have no feelings towards. He said, fuck them, man, let them burn, man. Y'all motherfuckers was out there trying to kill niggas, and my job was to kill y'all. So, I mean, for me, you always in film, when it comes to dealing with this time period, you always see black men as these scary ass motherfuckers who don't want no problems with nobody. I just want to move on and live my life, and I don't want no problems because I'm scared and shit like that. But really, in real life, man, there were a lot of black men and women who didn't want to take no shit from no white folks, man. And I think for me, that's a much, much more honest depiction of what's really going on. But it also speaks to the ideals that Quentin Tarantino has versus the ideals that typical American directors have. Because, you know, I watched Trumbo as well. I thought Trumbo was an amazing film as far as talking about how brave Dalton Trumbo was when it came to standing up to the un-American, you know, un-American Activities Commission that was deeming all of these filmmakers communists because of their ideals. And it showed you that the Hollywood Motion Picture Alliance had this preservation of American ideals. And how do you define American is a question that I came up with from watching that film. Like, what defines an American? And how do we preserve American ideals when there was a complete divide? That's the reason we had a civil war, because there was a division of ideals. And so when we're talking about the preservation of American ideals, whose ideals are we upholding and preserving? Right? Because there's one sector of America that wanted to see black men and women in chains, while there was another sector of America that didn't want to see black men and women in chains. However, we also didn't consider you motherfuckers equal either. And so the preservation to me of American ideals was that there was this mainstream narrative that blacks were still 3/5 human being. However, we don't think that you should be enslaved, because that's wrong. But you're also not the same as me when it comes to who you are versus who I am. And so Quentin Tarantino does an excellent job kind of like creating a new reality for how black people behaved during those times. And this is why I say he's brave, because I mean that shit ain't gonna sit well with a lot of motherfuckers, especially white folks. And you know, for me, I enjoyed seeing that, just like I enjoyed seeing Django, and seeing for once, you know, slave owners getting the justice that they deserve. To Just like I enjoyed seeing Hitler get his face blown off with a machine gun in Inglourious Bastards. And that's why I'm saying I think Quentin Tarantino is brave in the fact that he's relentless when it comes to what he's willing to show on screen and how he's willing to talk about these issues that happened in history. And I feel like there should be, it's sad that it takes Quentin Tarantino to show black folks in a light that's not, the typical, that's not in the preservation of American ideals, so to speak. I think Spike has done a great job of creating, satisfactory black images. And so has John Singleton in a way, and the Hughes brothers in a way. But I think that Quentin Tarantino took it to an incredibly new level with this when it comes to how we just deal with the bullshit, man. And then I guess it's touching on the fact that, race has been a major theme when it comes to the conversations and the discussions of people around this country this year. So I think that it really struck a chord with me, and by far it's got hands down the best, screenplay. I think it should win Best Picture. I know it's not going to win this year. It already has started off pretty bad. Tarantino went on a rampage talking about how Disney fucked him at the ArcLight. He wanted to premiere his movie on Christmas. He had a contract already written, and they bumped him for Star Wars, which is understandable because, from a monetary standpoint, Star Wars could screen more films. His director's cut is 3 hours and 15 minutes. You only going to get a few screenings of that versus, being able to, there is a Thomas Bunt, versus being able to get a, multiple screenings for Star Wars versus, limited screenings for The Hateful Eight. So I think it was definitely the best film of the year, and it's one of Quentin Tarantino's best films. Had a quick interruption, but we're going to go ahead and take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
These lonely pound puppies need someone to love. Someone who'd love a little puppy love.
For you, Grandma.
Pound puppies are as cuddly as real puppies.
He'll keep you company in the dorm.
They're the perfect way to say I love you for birthdays, holidays, or any day. Pound puppies, so soft and adorably lonely. Sometimes the hardest thing about giving them
Merry Christmas
is giving them up.
Pound puppy, you're my one and only puppy love.
I also got a chance to see Star Wars, man. On my birthday was this week. It was on the 26th of December, and I thought J.J. Abrams did an excellent job telling this story. One of the biggest thing for me was just the scale of how massive those Star Destroyers are. Like, I didn't realize after watching 4, 5, and 6 how big these spaceships are. And there was a bunch of articles online prior to the release of the film that came out to try to in infographics to try to like show you in scale of how big these things are, but they really didn't do it no justice, man. To really see it like on the screen, I saw it IMAX, so I saw it as big as you could possibly see it. And to see like her little motorcycle hoverboard fly into like the thrusters, and she gets lost in there, and she becomes like almost like a fly inside of there, and this huge world, and this is just the thruster. She's not in any of the rooms, the cabins, like she's not in any other place. She's just in the turbines, and it's like a cave, man. She's flying into like a canyon, and I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. So just how they use technology to showcase the scale of it, and then you have this big Star Destroyer that can suck the energy from a sun, and it just consumes the entire sun until the sun is gone, and then it uses that energy to shoot and destroy planets of star systems. I was just like, that alone is so incredible because of the fact that it just takes your mind to a whole nother reality, to something that you probably never thought was possible. And I thought that was incredible. I know that in 4, 5, and 6, I believe that Luke's home planet is destroyed. But it's not showcased the way that it's shown here. Obviously, you talking about the 1970s special effects versus special effects in 2016, 2015. It is, come on, we talking leaps and bounds. If George Lucas had this technology in the 1970s, I don't think cinema would even be where it is now. I think we'd be way into a whole nother dimension when it comes to film. Those are the things that I liked most. I thought the story was interesting. I did like that there was a female lead. She was strong and independent. I didn't really, a lot of people were up in arms about the whole idea that Finn was black and that a stormtrooper was black, even though I don't remember ever in 4, 5, 6 or 1, 2, or 3 where you saw a stormtrooper with its helmet off. So I don't know how we ever would have known that a stormtrooper was black, white, green, blue, and I think, I've heard some cats make another point that I agree with. And that's, when you talking about Jabba the Hutt, you talking about Yoda, you talking about all of these weird fish-faced people and alien blue, green, weird-looking cats. Like, these people are perfectly normal in the Star Wars universe, but a black stormtrooper is not normal. I think, that's some silly shit. But nonetheless, I didn't have no problem with Finn. I did think that he was soft. He was real scary, timid, didn't know left from right, didn't know where to go, was extra loud, extra over the top. He was trying to be strong, but then he just kept getting knocked down. The broad was stronger than him, and he was a bitch, man. I really didn't take too likely to him. I didn't mind if he died or not. What I mean? I was more so rooting for the girl than I was riding for him, because his son was just. He was just completely weak. I mean, he had moments where he stepped up and was brave, and he had to shoot down, troops and stormtroopers, and he had to shoot down some planes and stuff, and he had to find his courage. He had to dig deep, but so did the young lady lead in the film. She didn't always know what to do. She just kind of like followed her instinct and followed herself, and she was just naturally strong. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't over the top, excessive screaming and oh my God. She was like a fighter, and I'm just like, damn, like, you can't have two of those type of fighters. Like, everybody was like that. Like, everybody was like even keeled, but he was the only like extra flamboyant one. And I just was like, that shit is whack to me, especially coming from somebody who's a stormtrooper. And stormtroopers aren't necessarily like extra expressive types of individuals. I understand they're all like super programmed. So for him to like break his program and to like have some type of conscious awakening, I still would think that there would be characteristics of him that's still kind of like very, very, very subtle and like monotone, and like, he has a conscience, like he knows that something is wrong, but he's not overly emotional because he's been programmed to be emotionless. Now, maybe they thought the opposite. Maybe they thought that because of the fact that he was so programmed, that now, because he's had this awakening, now he's tapping into this range of emotion. But I don't feel like he didn't even explore his own emotional state, like who he is, where he's been, what has happened to him. Like, he didn't even really like deal with that. He kind of like just broke out of this program and kind of like just went on a rampage of like fighting against them. Like, he literally is torn between two worlds, and I don't even see like how he deals with that reality. And I thought that if they could have explored that, I thought that would have made for a much more interesting film. I mean, I guess especially for the character development of Finn, because, you know, I think that that's more realistic to who he is, you know. But I guess, you know, the film is more so about the young girl finding out that she is a Jedi, and it's her mission to go and reconnect with Luke Skywalker to be trained. Everything else was dope, man. I love how they rediscovered and reintroduced the Millennium Falcon, how Han Solo and them found the ship and what they were up to, how Princess Leia is still a rebel for the cause, how Luke Skywalker is like a dope-ass monk on some remote planet just chilling, you know, balancing his chi and living off the land. I thought that was dope. I thought that Maz Kanata was Lupita Nyong'o's character. I thought that she was dope. How, you know, she was like this, almost like just spiritual monk type of person who understood, you know, just the natures of the Force, even though she wasn't a Jedi. She still understood how the Force moves throughout the universe, and everybody has the Force within them. I thought that was dope. I would have loved to see her fight, and I'm sure, you know, now that this film is such a success that they're going to probably do a few more installments on it. So I'd love to see where they go from here and how this universe expands, and I would love for them to build on Finn's character a little bit more. I think that he should be more in a psychological crisis than anything at this point, than out fighting. I think he should be trying to figure out who he is and how did it, you know, who his parents are, where he came from, because now he's a living, breathing human being. He's not a stormtrooper by, you know, a code name. He's a real person. And so, was he born in a factory? How did I'm interested in seeing like where he came from. And then I'm interested to see, you know, like how Luke Skywalker is going to train this young lady. So I'm interested to see how this can go. I thought it was one of the best ones since like Return of the Jedi. You know what I'm saying? I think that it was definitely one of the best ones. So yeah, I also saw The Revenant over the weekend. I saw The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. Definitely hands down the best actor on screen that I've seen all year. I mean, you know, come on, man. Practical sets. You're really out in the wilderness. You're really cold. The dude almost caught hypothermia each time. He looks like he's in pain, you know, because he really is in pain. You know, dude gets attacked by a bear, and I really feel like dude is being eaten alive by a bear. Beautiful film by Alejandro G. Inarritu. He's the same brother that gave us, what was that movie called? Birdman. Yeah, he gave us Birdman. And that film was dope. I thought that, was that last year or was that 2013? But either way, he gave us Birdman. And The Revenant is another beautiful film captured by Emmanuel Lubezki, cinematographer. Beautiful cinematography that showed, you know, just the epic landscapes of America. And it showed also to me, I don't know if that was the intention. I watched the little featurette where they talked about the themes and stuff, but I also saw that there was a connection between man's relationship to the natural environment there, where you see these grand wide shots, you know, these panoramas of, you know, the American mountain regions, but you see this little small man, you know, walking along this big frozen, you know, vast field. And to me, it just shows the magnitude of how big the earth is in comparison to how small we truly are and how insignificant. Like, that bear was beating the shit out of Leonardo DiCaprio. And it just shows like how nature like is the dominant force on this planet, but man's greed and desire for dominance, it perverts, you know, the natural environment in a way and distorts it to where it damages it to a point where it's unrecognizable. And it was also interesting to see how, you know, the French and the Americans considered the natives savages, while, you know, the things that they were after were the massive slaughtering of animals for their skins to sell so that they can have money. So they were taking tangible things and converting them into coins that they can exchange for goods so that they can put things on their walls and live a better, so-called better life. It was weird. It showed, like, you know, who's really the savage, you know what I'm saying? Because one of the natives who saved Leonardo DiCaprio throughout the film, I'm not going to give you too many spoilers, but, you know, he used the actual land to heal Leonardo DiCaprio. You know, and to me, I thought that was interesting, just how his blessings came in the form of nature intervening, and not intervening in like a conscious way, but just intervening by just happenstance. Like, he just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and nature was there to provide him with what he needed. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's caves and just, you know, finding himself on the bank of a river, and there just happens to be fish there, and he can now eat. And him hearing the rumble of a herd of buffalo, and he just stumbles across that. These are all times where he was getting ready to die. The nigga falls off a cliff, his horse dies, and he lands on his, you know, something in a tree or something like that, and falls down and ends up being able to use the horse as temporary shelter for the night, and he hides inside of the horse. Like, it was crazy how it just showed how man is dead without the natural environment, without the natural world. Without nature, there is no man. Man is a byproduct of nature. Nature is almost the savior of man, but yet and still, everything about the natural world to the European, the natural world is an obstacle. It's an enemy combatant, and we have to battle nature in order to conquer it, in order to be happy and live life prosperously. And I thought that was interesting. And you know, I also thought that, you know, this film was very poetic in its use of like vaginas, in a sense. Like, if you think about each cave, right? You think about, for one, you think about what Leonardo DiCaprio longed for throughout the entire movie. It was the mother figure. It was the mystical mother figure. There were no women in the film. There was one woman, and she was a slave. Well, she was captured and she was being raped. But the one woman who you do see in the film is a mystical woman who he says he had a who he said was his wife, who produced his son, but also it was almost like she was a mother figure, because you see her embracing him in the beginning in a dream. You see her embracing him almost in a maternal standpoint, from a maternal standpoint. And throughout the rest of the film, he dreams about her, but he also finds himself dreaming about her every time he's inside of a cave or like a womb. And you really see it when he hides inside of the horse. And once he strips down completely naked, once he hides inside the horse, he strips down completely naked, and he folds the two, you know, the incision where he made on the horse, he folds the two ends together, and it looks like he's almost like coming outside of a vagina. And I thought that was beautiful, to show like how that's what we really doing when we go inside of a house. Like, a house is nothing but a contemporary design of a cave. You know, we're using elements from the earth to build these caves for ourselves so that we can seek refuge and protect ourselves against the natural elements of the world. But the idea of going inside of a cave is like going back inside of the womb. It provides shelter and protection. It nurtures us. It nourishes us because there's food there. There's, you know, it's safe there. You know, everything that we know. It's like going back to the womb. You know, and I thought that, you know, the film showcased that beautifully by limiting the amount of women that we saw, and allowing for the one image of the mother that we did see was just this mystical mother, this goddess, this Mother Earth, in a sense. And so we see the female characteristic represented through nature, but also through flashback, you know, and how we see man's relationship to the feminine energy. We see it manifested in the idea that females are only to be used sexually and exploited sexually. That's why, you know, they were raping the one woman that the tribe was looking for. And so I thought that was dope, man. And it also showed like how savage, you know, the Europeans were, you know what I mean? And just how much excess that they needed in order to get what they wanted. And how the Indians kind of like low-key rebelled against it, but at the same time, you know, they realized that there was nothing that they could really do other than to try to create pacts and treaties to kind of like, you know, keep some kind of balance and keep some way of their life. Because I mean, if they would have tried to go to war, they would have lost. These dudes had guns, they had bows and arrows, but don't get me wrong, like, they weren't suckers. You know, they were also willing to fight to the death for what they believed in. So I thought The Revenant was a beautiful film. It is a revenge story about, you know, this man, Hugh Glass, who was a real person, who really did and went through these things, who was trying to avenge, you know, the death of his son, who was murdered. That's The Revenant. Oh my God, I feel like I've been asleep again. So why did I just find out that Slum Village put out a new record? What? Yeah, I know, right? Back in, what was this, May, April? Slum Village put out a record called Yes. And son, this joint is retarded. Like, I feel bad. I feel bad that I've been talking about Pusha T's album, and I've been talking about J-Rock's album and Kendrick, and I've been talking about Rick Ross and 50 Cent's album, and I ain't said one thing about probably one of the dopest hip-hop groups of all time. You heard it here first. Slum Village, SV. Nigga, fantastic. Volume 1, Volume 2, J88, Detroit Deli. What? Trinity. Get out of here. These brothers released a slapping album called Yes. Back in June. And they on a new label, I guess. It's called Naestra Music. It's a 12-track LP. Features 9 songs produced or co-produced posthumously by the one and only Shut Your Mouth, Boom Bap God, Jay Dilla, rest in peace. Man, they got features from De La, Fife, Black Milk, Frank Nitt, Bilal, and you know, Illa J is on the record. So it's Young RJ, T3, and Illa J. That's now Slum Village. And I can't tell you, man, every song on there is banging. Allmusic.com gave it 3 stars. They're stupid. I don't know what they're thinking. This album is completely incredible. Yeah, man, they got a joint on there. They got a joint on there called Right Back, produced by Jay Dilla and Young RJ, featuring De La Soul, Pasta News. And that song goes so hard. Then they go straight to We On The Go, produced by Black Milk. Then they got Where We Come From. Then they got Expressive. Then they got Fantastic Love Is, Tear It Down featuring John Connor. It's just like, then What We Have featuring Cam Corvette. This joint, man, oh my God, it's so soulful. I don't know how Jay Dilla does it, man. I really don't know how this dude was able to make this type of music, and it still slaps to this day. Like, I really believe, like, when Frank and Dank was talking about how Jay Dilla is an alien, he might have been, man. He might have really been, you know, one of those dudes that was from a whole nother dimension, a whole nother galaxy, and he ain't died. He just kind of like boarded his spaceship, and he's in a whole nother time zone making music, and for another universe. I wouldn't be surprised, man, because this dude's music is just so incredibly powerful. The way it touches you on the deepest parts of you, it's like I don't know, it feels like you've never heard it, but you've heard it all your life, if that makes any sense. And You know, I've grown up listening to Jay Dilla. I'll do a whole podcast episode on Jay Dilla. You fuck around with Tommy Bunnz, man. But this brother means so much to hip hop, and it's so funny. Like even on Right Back, I believe it's either Right Back or Where We Come From. T3 goes in and he starts talking about how. Matter of fact, let me just play it.
I'm not a victim, I'm just tired of niggas who say they know about Dilla, but they don't fuck with villains. The realest spitters, the magnificent foundation builders.
Did you hear what that boy said? And that's so funny, man. You know, for Slum Village to be the group that gave Jay Dilla his notoriety, it's so interesting how the people who big up Jay Dilla don't speak about Slum Village and how dope By 10 was, rest in peace, how dope T3 is. To me, it's like it's a slap in the face, man, because, you know, it's like they don't even get the love no more. It's like once Jay Dilla left the group and then once he passed away, it was like everybody who thinks about Slum Village now, I don't know, it's like they get so slept on and so disrespected almost. Like, how the fuck you give these niggas a 3 stars for this album? This album is dope. This album is better than fucking 50's album. This album is better than Pusha T's album. This album is better than a lot of the music that's on the mainstream radio airwaves right now. It's better than it by a hell of a margin. It's killing it. I don't understand how niggas could give these niggas a 3 stars for that. Even though that's not like, you know, all hip hop, that's not really the metric of hip hop. But I can guarantee you this album didn't sell more than 30,000 copies. You know, and to me that's just like such a disgrace. Like everybody will talk about how dope Jay Dilla is, but nobody will talk about how awesome Slum Village is. You know, Jay Dilla was dope because of the fact that Slum Village was making those Jay Dilla beats sound so awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like Slum Village is for real, man. And if you ain't heard Trinity, you know, if you ain't heard Fantastic Volume 1, Fantastic Volume 2, if you ain't heard that music, man, you don't really know Jay Dilla. You know what I'm saying? Y'all niggas a lot of niggas done came across a lot of Jay Dilla music and instrumentals that's been floating around, and you hear your favorite rappers talking about Jay Dilla, and niggas be dick riding, and you know you want to hop on a Jay Dilla beat and act like you repping Jay Dilla and shit like that, but don't nobody talk about the Slum Village album when it come out, and it's posthumously produced by Jay Dilla. Like, what we talking about? You know what I'm saying? And that to me, that's some whack shit, man. And that lets me know like a lot of niggas don't really fuck with Jay Dilla because you don't fuck with Slum Village, man. It's a dope album. It's very, very slept on, and it makes great. You know, T3 makes a great point, man. You know, Slum Village is very, very slept on when it comes to that. Not only just their contributions to hip hop and their contributions to Jay Dilla's music, because I mean these were friends. These dudes grew up together, kicked it together, you know, smoked together, hung out together, toured the world together. Like, they were big inspirations into his music as well. Like, they were the niggas that was saying like, yo, these beats is dope, and these beats is dope enough for us to rhyme on. Just imagine if niggas turned on his beats. Like, this is what KRS One be talking about. Value is in the eye of the beholder. Like, the minute you wearing something and your partner tear you down and say, nah, that shit whack, you probably won't wear it again. But who knows, like, what would have happened if you would have told your boy, like, man, that shit is dope, I like your little fit right now, like, and your boy start big upping you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that T3 and By 10 and, you know, just a lot of the cats in Detroit had a huge influence on Jay Dilla outside of just his musical genius and his musical inspiration. I think that his homies had a lot of influence on the type of music he made. And so just for that, like, you know, a lot of those brothers deserve a lot of respect. But, you know, that's what I'm here for, man. It's the Black Friday podcast. You're going to hear about my infatuation with JD and Slum Village a lot. So, like I said, man, one of the dopest groups of all time. It's not the same group now with Young RJ and Illa J. It's not the T3. It's not the T3 By 10 and Jay Dilla. It's not even the T3 Elzai and By 10 Slum Village. But this is a cool combination of individuals. I still think that this album, it's not even about the individual artists. I think it's about the body of music. It's the music that they made, which is dope. You know what I'm saying? I think Illa J is probably the weakest rapper in the group. And I don't think he's even a rapper. I think he's more of like a singer, musician, or just artist. He might be talented in some other ways, but I don't even know if he's just a rapper, you know. And I hope that, you know, the brother's not just trying to, you know, fill in his brother's, you know, shoes because, you know, people expect that from him. You know, I hope the dude, he just really taps into who he wants to be, you know, and so he can get out of the shadows of being J Dilla. I think he needs to change that name from Illa J. You know, I just get away from, you know, being in the shadows of J Dilla, because you're never going to be able to amount to, like, this dude put in real work and built a foundation. And that's probably a lot of the reasons why niggas ain't fucking with SV, because they feeling like, you know, these cats is like trust fund babies. Like, they just only profiting off of the name and legacy of J Dilla because of his relationship with other artists throughout the industry. I don't think that's what they're doing, but I think that I know how niggas be thinking sometimes, and I think that might be the reason why niggas ain't fucking with it. Because if you fucking with it because of his good music or bad music, then we definitely sleep, because this is a good record. But yeah, man, so go check that Slum Village, yes. Yeah, we'll be right back at this commercial break.
This is a special report from
Black Friday.
We have to stop saying that we are apathetic, because I'm going to define that word for you. Apathy means that you won't work on a program that I tell you will help you. Because, baby, when college students leave a good job and go to Mississippi to organize their people, that ain't hardly apathy. And when people get together in Watts and in Chicago and organize a rebellion, that ain't hardly apathy.
So yeah, that's it, man. I'm your host, Tommy Bunnz. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Black Friday podcast. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate all of the love and respect I've been getting over these last few episodes. The audience is growing. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And so I look forward to more people, you know, just tuning in, telling me what you think, you know, talking about topics and ideas that you think, starting these conversations. I love it. So at this time, you know what I'm going to say. Give me some of that social currency, a like, a share, a comment. Like my Facebook page, Tommy Bunnz. Follow me on Twitter at Tommy Bunnz1. Hit me up on Instagram at Tommy Bunnz. Man, let's keep these conversations going. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it moving. 2015 was a great year for me, man. I honestly can say, like, you know, this year was better than last year. I made more money this year working for myself as a social entrepreneur. I do not have no boss. I only have clients and people that I work with, people who endorse me and my artistic vision. And I'm real proud of myself for being able to say that I don't got to clock in. You know, I'm able to follow my passion and my talents and make a living off of it. You know what I'm saying? And this year was more successful financially than last year. It's hard as fuck though, man. I'm gonna be honest, man. For anybody that's out there thinking about if they want to be an entrepreneur, or what do I got to do to start my own business, like, it's not as simple as just saying like I want to have my own business. It's really asking yourself the question, are you better at calling the plays for your own life, or are you better at allowing or fitting into a system? Some of us are better at fitting into a system, and so we find jobs that have the best system set up for us, and then we can kind of just be ourselves within this already ready-made system. That works well for a lot of people, and I big up those people who fit inside of those systems. I'm just one person that doesn't necessarily, I haven't found a system that I fit into just normally, that accepts and embraces me for me and doesn't want me to conform to their ideas of how I'm supposed to conduct myself. So the only other way, as time continues to progress, and now I'm 31 years old, as time continues to progress, I have to create a system for myself. And so I spend a lot of time reading and learning about business and about, how to create these, systems and how to create, a culture for yourself. I spend a lot of time just redefining and reshaping and deciding who I want to be and how to build around that. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. But we got something a little different coming in 2016, man. Like I said, this year has been great. I'm really, really glad this podcast is popping off. We got a lot of films that we're going to be working on next year. We're shooting a comedy special. We're going to be doing a lot more extensive work in the community in Inglewood as they decide whether or not the NFL is going to come to Inglewood, which is going to mean a lot more opportunities economically for people, especially myself. It's a lot of things going on in 2016, man. I look forward to seeing, where we go with this thing. And, you guys be safe out there. I'm not going to fuck around on New Year's. I'm kicking it at the crib. I don't really do too much celebrating on New Year's. I like to just stay focused and be around the ones that I love. And, because I feel like who I'm in the year with, I'm going to begin and have in my life for the whole year. So, I'm going to be around my family and my close loved ones. And, we just going to have a good time, man, and enjoy the success of this year for us. And, meditate on more success in 2016. It's gonna take me a minute to start saying 2016. I'm still feeling like it's just natural to say 2015. But 2016 is going to be here. And, yeah, man, expect more episodes of the Black Friday podcast. Every week we going to come at you with more topics on everything under the sun, from race to films to hip-hop to sports to relationships to economics to time travel to metaphysics to yoga to sex to rock and roll. Everything, man. So, yeah, like I said, man, send us some of that social currency. Like me on Tommy Bunnz on Facebook, Tommy Bunnz on Instagram, Tommy Bunnz1 on Twitter. Check me out on TommyBunnz.com, www.TommyBunnz.com, TommyBunnz.com. Got a lot of articles over there. Just put out some new music. Just recorded some new music with my brothers from the Beat Fam Productions. Definitely gonna have them in the studio with us coming in 2016, and it's gonna definitely get to a point where I'm not gonna be telling you about the things that are coming, and you're just gonna start experiencing them. But that's all something that I'm looking forward to. These are all my New Year's goals. You see what I'm saying? And we might even have some sponsors on this thing next year, man. Who knows? Once this thing takes off. It's the Black Friday podcast. Happy New Year. Merry belated Christmas. We in Kwanzaa right now. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. Happy New Year. Y'all be safe out there. Peace and light.